The Fandom Menace. You may not know what that is. Let me explain. The phrase was first coined or made popular around March of 2018 by comic artist pro secrets Ethan Van Sciver, professional comic book artist and self-proclaimed world's most charming man. Ethan considered changing his YouTube channel's name to the Fandom Menace, but ultimately decided against it for his own reasons. I believe he recognized that this phrase had taken on a life of its own within the Star Wars fandom, a fandom that had felt not only being vehemently offended by what they perceived as a complete mishandling of their favorite universe, but who has also been openly attacked online by Disney Lucasfilm creators when they had rightfully criticized them for their lack of creative vision as consumers of a decades-old franchise. Star Wars is the godfather of conventions, cosplay, fan fiction, and a dedicated fandom like that of Star Trek that kept Trek alive for the drop between the television series' 3-year run and the highly criticized Star Trek the Motion Picture. Star Wars inspired legions of science fiction, fantasy, and space opera fans who felt connections between themselves in a very foreign yet relatable galaxy far, far away. Between A New Hope releases in 1977 to Return of the Jedi in 1983, and that of the prequel trilogy starting with The Phantom Menace in 1999, Star Wars fans have been kept alive and reverent about this franchise through various mediums. Comic books, novels, and video games are among these that meant as much to the consumer as the Star Wars saga films, a very specialized genre that inspired a myriad of imaginative, creative thought where one could travel through the stars to unknown worlds that had absolutely nothing to do with Earth or its history. It was a history unto itself, a galaxy far, far away. The prequel trilogy has been debated since its introduction in 1999, yet people went to see it in droves. The Phantom Menace was the first main saga film that the fans had received in 15 years. The series of films gave us a look at things only mentioned to in the original trilogy. The Old Republic, the Jedi, and the Clone Wars were expanded upon, giving us much more in terms of content than the OT. Without making a comparison as to whether more or less content means more, these new characters, races, and settings were an introduction to a younger generation of the mythos of Star Wars and what it had meant to the previous generation and why. Whatever your stance on the prequels are, it cannot be disputed that they created a bridge between these two generations and began an entirely new revitalized era that fans of the OT had longed for since 1983. Yet hardcore OT fans needed something more. They wanted to see on-screen what had happened to their favorite characters like Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, Lando, and many others. Not to mention the expanded universe characters that loved people like Mara Jade, Grand Admiral Thrawn, the Solo Twins, and various other characters. In October 2012, Disney announced that they would be acquiring Star Wars from creator George Lucas. Many were skeptical, others rejoiced. Some, like myself, were fully confident after seeing how Disney had handled the Marvel Universe that Disney was going to do this right. Fans envisioned Old Republic movies, new cartoons, expansion on beloved characters from the EU, and of course a new trilogy starring Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford. When Kathleen Kennedy sat next to George Lucas and proclaimed that she would be honoring the legacy left behind by George, most of us had faith. Fans could not have even suspected that a nefarious plan was about to be set in motion. We unfortunately can't move forward here unless we take a look at the state of the real world, a galaxy very, very close to us, like the one we live in, the state of American politics, and that which should have nothing whatsoever to do with Star Wars, and the reaction of those in the controlling power of Hollywood. Here's the definition of Trump Derangement Syndrome, or TDS, as according to Wiki. What does this have to do with Star Wars? In factuality, absolutely nothing. In reality, to people like Kathleen Kennedy and those she decided to place in creative control at Star Wars, it means everything. They have TDS. They also have a fascination with things like race and gender, and a proclivity to assume that if you don't constantly ponder about these things as much as they do, that you must be racist and sexist. The irony is simply tragic. The racist and sexist thought process that goes on within the echo chamber of these Hollywood elites is so vast and all-encompassing that they believe they, the actual racists and sexists, are champions of equality in some kind of ideological crusade or oppression Olympics, where identity politics rules all. It rules over content, story, creativity, equality, and fairness. For some reason, their bigotry is good, while the perceived bigotry they place on Republicans or Donald Trump is evil. It's a very vicious and delusional cycle, one that most of us just don't care about. What fan of the Star Wars franchise really wants real-world, dated politics injected into a galaxy far, far away? The thing that these bigots don't understand, while fighting over woke points, is that Star Wars has always been inclusive. It never mattered if the fellow Star Wars fan you were speaking with, for whatever reason, be it adoration or debate, was a certain race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or nationality. It never mattered. That was a Star Wars fan. You are a Star Wars fan. The guy you were talking to at the convention that was dressed as a female character? Well, maybe on the street you'd think a dude in a dress was weird, but in there, it was just another fan showing love for the same universe you loved without being judged for it. Star Wars has always been inclusive. These Disney Lucasfilm creators, they don't get that. They can't understand that, because they, indeed, are the bigots who only see things like race, gender, and sexual orientation. This unfortunately shows in the product that they create and its longtime fans who don't think about any of this that have to suffer through it. Since 2005, with the release of Revenge of the Sith, the fans went through another cinematic drought. This time it wasn't as dry, as we had well-made cartoons like Clone Wars to get us through. We received more flushing out of characters like Anakin Skywalker, Mace Windu, and Yoda, as well as getting to know and love newer characters like fan favorite Ahsoka Tano. Not to mention many clone troopers that became so loved, one even got retconned as an extra in Return of the Jedi. So when Disney Lucasfilm announced Episode 7, almost everyone was excited. Disney, who had given us so much memorable content over the years, was going to do this right. They wouldn't let some ideological bigot run the ship. They would have people in positions of creative power that would honor the universe that George Lucas created, right? One of Disney Lucasfilm's first acts was to cut the EU from canon, a move that I personally understood, and others did as well. After all, this is Disney. They were going to take the best of the EU and put it on film. Most of us knew this in our hearts. Then in 2015, we the fans received our first viewing of the direction of Disney Lucasfilm with The Force Awakens. Nothing from the EU was used. It was all ignored. For a lot of fans, it was simply exciting and nostalgic to have another edition of the main saga on film. For many other fans, there were some serious questions. Questions like, where's Luke? Why is Han a deadbeat dad? Why aren't Han and Leia still together? What happened to the New Republic? Where's the Jedi Academy? Who the hell is Ben Solo? Where's Jason and Jannah? Who's Rey? Why is she so powerful? She trained by Mara Jade? Who and what is Snoke? Why is the New Republic a resistance? What are they resisting? What the hell is the First Order, and what happened to the Imperial Remnant? What in the actual fuck is going on? There were many, many questions. All of these reactions were like suspended animation in hopes that when we got to see Jedi Master Luke Skywalker 30 years stronger, we would get answers. In December of 2017, we got those answers. The creators of Disney Lucasfilm do not care. What's more, not only did they not care, but Kathleen Kennedy had handpicked director Rian Johnson to write the equivalent of a cinematic middle finger to the entire fandom. In my opinion, there's no other way to see this. There are TLJ fans, and there are Star Wars fans. TLJ fans are not Star Wars fans. How could they be? Just a short list of things to explain why I see it this way. The first movie in the original saga was called A New Hope. The main protagonist, Luke Skywalker, was an orphan raised by his aunt and uncle who get shortly murdered after the beginning of the film. After this, he sets out on an adventure with a mentor, riddled with adversities, that he has to overcome. He's not really good at anything, except piloting, which is explained due to his leisure activities of flying in Beggar's Canyon on Tatooine. Along the initial adventure, he loses his mentor in an act of self-sacrifice so he and his companions can escape the deadly situation. When he gets the chance at the end of the film, he finally shines for a moment due to two factors: his previous experience as a pilot, and a friend that he earned along the way. Luke was not perfect. Luke had to go through many trials, including losing his hand, friends, and dealing with the revelation that a close family member being the most feared asshole in the galaxy. By the third movie, Return of the Jedi, he was still not perfect. He still made mistakes. And in the end, it was only his ability to reach some point of light within his father, the aforementioned child-murdering asshole, that he could win. Luke didn't defeat the Emperor. Anakin Skywalker did. That is why Luke was the New Hope. He was the last hope that Anakin could be turned back to the light. In The Last Jedi, we see the exact opposite of this character's progression and development. Wouldn't having blind faith in your father, a universal douchebag, that he could somehow be made good again, make you an extreme optimist? Rian Johnson is trying to tell us this guy, 30 years later, tries to kill his 12-year-old nephew because feelings? We did not even get Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. We got Rian Johnson's bigoted view of straight white males. He's old, grumpy, uncharacteristic, and just a terrible person. I'm not going all of just how absolutely terrible this film is. There are plenty of YouTube videos to explain this in detail. I'll just sum up a few things. This film takes place 5 minutes after the first one, unlike every other saga film, which is a time jump of at the very least 3 years. Dropping bombs in space. All men are useless. Canto Bight. Vice Admiral Gender Studies. Leia Poppins. Emo Ren. Snoke's dead. Jake Skywalker. Rey was sold for beer money. Just so much absolute garbage. So much ham-fisted virtue signaling. Narrative over content. Wokeness over story. Ideological agenda over respect for the universe. Then came the attacks by writer-director Rian Johnson. Gods forbid you didn't like this film. You were then labeled an asshole, and it was fair game for this person in creative control at Disney Lucasfilm to attack you online. This person that Kathleen Kennedy praised, for he had the same mindset as she about the direction of Disney Lucasfilm. A company culture where people like Chuck eat shit from my boot Wendig flourished in this environment. So what is the Fandom Menace? The Phantom Menace, or as more recently been called the Fandom Collective, is a group of not only Star Wars fans, but fans of several science fiction series that have come under attack by creative powers who seek to use these mediums to push their ideological narratives based on bigotry, hate, and inequality. The Fandom Menace is made up of a very diverse group of people from a plethora of backgrounds who all love their respective franchises, from Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, and others. The Fandom Menace is not only limited to these groups on screen. TFM members are also on the front lines to keep these SJWs out of comic books, novels, video games, and tabletop gaming. The Fandom Menace is a reaction to the culture war by people who seek to use shame as a weapon against critics of their biased beliefs. If you dare to point out the dogma of these bigots doing the very thing they accuse others of being, they will attempt to belittle you with feelings over facts. They will try to get you fired from your job. They will try to intimidate, threaten, label you, because you do not share in their bigotry. These are disgusting, revolting, terrible hate mongers who have been allowed to infiltrate the entertainment industry for political purposes. Before I leave, I wanted to give some credit where it is due. This channel would not exist had it not been for Jeremy at Geeks and Gamers in a very inspirational video that he shared a couple weeks ago. If you're not a subscriber to Geeks and Gamers, please go there and check out their content. And if you like, subscribe. I've been subbed to him since January of 18, and he has inspired me. Thank you for everything, Jeremy. I'd also like to say thank you to Jeff at World Class Bullshitters, Ethan from Comic Artist Pro Secrets, Ivan Ortega, Mindless Entertainment, Mecharanum42, and Dictor Van Doomcock from Overlord DVD. I never really gave a damn about you two until I was introduced to all of you. I hope I can create content as well as you do, as an honor of the inspiration you have given me. This is Lodonis from Facts and Feelings. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and more importantly, be good to each other.